because of the time, you want to hear John, not me. So I will just simply add one more thing. John was also one of the founders of the Irish Cultural Centre. And you can see the fruits of that work have been extremely successful. John, you do me a great honor in having me present this award to you. I thank you very much, and on behalf of the Boston Irish community, I thank you for all you have done to make all of us proud to be Irish.
Tá fáilte lód agus tá mé hal as a bhíon seo. Seán a Curran is anadam agus tá mé as cúnde Curran agus cúnde Corky agus cúnde Boston. I'm delighted to be here and delighted to have Bob O'Neill do the introduction. Bob touched on a number of things, but he didn't touch on some of the great things that happened in Ireland. And he mentioned a word and used a word in his speeches in Ireland about the word was academician. Now, you may or may not know from previous introductions that Bob is the director of the Burns Library, and also, of course, the Burns Library holds Boston chapter of Cultus Kiltorian Records. And just a couple of weeks ago, they were nice enough to obtain, fancy great enough to obtain the Mary O'Hara's collection. She was there, and we were there, and it was just a wonderful afternoon. It gave us a great opportunity to see what it is to have a Burns Library at Boston College. Everyone here I look at has a story behind them. A story that I have known, and a story that I've been involved in. But I'm not going to take that kind of time. And I would not want to make the mistake of singling somebody out and offending somebody else. But there is one that I will make, and it gives you an example of how far back things go. There's a lady in the audience tonight who comes from Irees, County Cork. It's West Cork, and I lived there for a number of years. And I remember this lady in 1950. She and her sisters, I believe, worked in Castletown Mayor, and our paths crossed, unknowingly, but our paths crossed. Little did we know that we would be meeting and be good friends in Boston many years later. What have you done for Sound of Erin? There isn't anybody here who hasn't contributed to the growth of Sound of Erin Radio, from Sound of Erin Radio to soundoferinradio.com, which is currently on the air. We and you have grown the program from a 30-minute radio program on WUNR in Boston to a worldwide phenomenon, which is we are the only source for Irish and Celtic music 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on www.soundoferinradio.com. That's an achievement held by you and by my wife and children too, who I'll talk about a little later. The 30-minute program on WUNR grew to be a 60-minute program on a 10. WUNR was 5,000 watching it here and everywhere within 128. We moved to WNTN, double voltage, 10,000 watts, double wattage, I should say, 10,000 watts. And from there we grew to worldwide. We were fortunate, not foresight on my part, but we were fortunate when streaming and computers came into place, that we were producing a program on radio and streaming at the same time. So one developed the other. When radio programming became radio advertising and radio time became too expensive and it was costing us $85,000 a year for airtime, we decided it was time to move on, and we dropped program a year ago and have gone from strength to strength. Even though we lost a lot of listeners because they're not computer-oriented, worldwide we have picked up tremendously more. We are heard in 80 countries, over 80 countries actually. We have 250,000 people listening to us, and each person here who contributed money over those years can be thanked for it. There was a number of bumps on the mattress, so to speak, during those years. One of them was, my first job was to do 5 minutes in a 30-minute program. One of our friends were doing 5 minutes of sports. I begged to get on the radio program and do 5 minutes of Irish headlines, news headlines. And that worked out fine for a while, but it was difficult to have Aer Lingus and the Irish Tourist Board and Bord Fáilte and Bed and Breakfast Homes. It was difficult to have them as sponsors, when in the next breath I would be talking about bombings in Northern Ireland, bus burnings in Belfast, people killed in Derry. It was difficult to put all of that together with advertising how great Ireland was. It culminated when I received a death threat on the telephone because I used the word terrorist. I usually got the papers at Harvard Square. I thought in them very well, but in one particular program I used the word terrorist as it related to Northern Ireland, as particularly the Republican side of Northern Ireland, and as I said, I got death threats on the telephone because I did it. One day our doorbell rang and my son Sean went to answer the door, and he came running in. He said, Dad, there's an FBI guy at the door. I said, FBI? Yeah. So he brought him in. And he said, Mr. Curran, I'm here to talk to you about your involvement in the Irish community. I said, fine. And you don't have to ask for help on this one. I said, fine. He said, what would you like to talk about? Who is it? Give me the name of one of the Beatles. George. George who?
John Lennon.
John Lennon. No. That wasn't
George Harrison.
George Harrison. He said, Mr. Curran, do you know somebody by the name of George Harrison? He said, the Beatles were hot those times. We said, yeah, I know him. He's one of the Beatles. He said, no, this George Harrison is not one of the Beatles. This George Harrison is head of Irish Northern Aid and IRA in the United States. I said, I have no involvement with him. He said, well, why would we find your phone number, your telephone and your address in his diary or his personal phone book? I said, I have no idea. Maybe it's because for 10 years I've emceed their banquet. Maybe also for 10 years I've emceed the Holy Name banquet and the Cork banquet, you name it. I've emceed a million banquets. I said, the Irish Northern Aid was one of them. That doesn't necessarily mean I leaned in any direction. Well, I came to the conclusion that that was not good, so we decided to kill the, pun not intended, we decided to kill the headlines, and we went on to grow from there, as I said, to the largest source of Irish and Celtic songs and music in the world. I personally have the most, it's a world record also, I personally hold the record for having the most on-air hours anybody in the world, not just Irish. He was a fabulous host. He was here for a couple of weeks, a long time ago, doing People Are Talking. But he is the #1. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records in Ireland, and he hosted the Gay Byrne Show daily and the Late Night Show tonight, and he's got humongous hours, and we would never try to dethrone him. We would just simply say, well, let's wait a while and see if he dies, and then we would. Maybe eventually we'd get to wear the crown. I don't particularly care for wearing the crown, but I'm happy that you as sponsors and you as individuals, and as every one of you here in one way or another, whether you're just a listener, contributed to our success, because the more listeners you get, the more sponsors you get, and therefore it is through that you helped us sponsor.